Good morning, everybody. It is game day. Sunday morning, there is nothing like NFL game day, and it's actually throwback Sunday for all of you Dolphin fans out there. Today is a throwback day, and that's usually a win. In fact, I'd love to see the stats on that, but I, I don't want to digress here. What I want to do is say hello to everybody. I want to welcome my partner in crime, Cyclop. Brad, how you doing this morning?
I am good. Do you mean throwback like they are, might have a chance at winning? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, that's kind of like throw way back if you were
Yeah.
gonna say that. The truth of the matter is, and every team has a throwback jersey, and the funny thing
Right.
about Miami is their jersey isn't that much different,
Right.
right? From there are several years of logos.
Little changes.
It hasn't changed that much. However, there's been this big movement trying to get the Dolphins to use the throwback jerseys, which is actually the Tua jersey I'm wearing now is a throwback jersey full time because they seem to have better luck.
Yeah, well, they need anything they can get right now, right? The Dolphins. Anyway, I'm feeling good. It's Sunday. I'm going to get to watch football, I believe, today, which is good, right?
Right.
Wife's out of town.
Oh, okay. You should have told me. I would have flown up. We would have had a good time.
Hey, anytime. There's still time. It's only an hour and a half flight. But yeah, feeling good. I even have questions today about my lineup. So I'm going to have to ask that during this show, right? It's like I should be the one answering their questions, but what I'm doing is asking them today, I think.
Yeah, you find that, one thing about this business is, number one, even the experts are wrong a lot of the times, right? Even the guys that are on TV, on ESPN, they're wrong a lot. And they rarely get called out for it. And there's two reasons for that. One, it's selective memory. And two, it's because everyone understands you can never really predict it every time, right? No. I can get up here and say, hey, Patrick Mahomes is going to have a good day. Okay, great. That makes me an expert. No, it's pulling out those gems, pulling out the things that nobody expects. That's, to me, what makes you better. Not necessarily that you have a contract in ESPN or that, you can speak better than somebody else.
Right.
It's finding that gem.
Yeah, and that happens every week, right? We guess and guess and guess. It's all a guess.
Yep.
Right? I mean, like today.
But it's an educated guess.
We try to have educated guesses, and sometimes it's just dumb luck. Probably more in my case than yours.
Which is why I've won just about every bet so far that we've had, and I think that's just dumb luck.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so normally, let's get to the show. Normally, we have 2020 here with us. I think he got drunk last night and he's hungover, or he has softball. It's one of the two things, or both. So we're going to, hopefully he'll join us a little later. But in the meantime, we're going to continue with our show, and we are here for you today. We are here to help you understand who to start, who to bench. There are so many players that are out, and there are so many players that were hurt all week that are playing. And we're going to give you that information. But the most important thing is we're here to help you. So give us a call at 772-800-BUZZ, or go ahead and place your comments, YouTube Live, Facebook Live. We will get to them. We will stop what we are doing right in our tracks, and we will answer your question away.
Right. That's what we're here for Sunday morning.
Right. Oh, speaking of Sunday morning at 11:30, the active and inactive list for the 1 o'clock game starts to come in and trickle in little by little. And as those come across the wire, we will be presenting that to you guys so that you have first knowledge of who's going to be inactive and active for the 1 o'clock games. But first, Brad, let us know on the injury front what to expect as far as who are the big time players that are not playing and who are the ones that are playing.
All right, so I'm going to need a little bit here. Okay, I need a little bit of time. It's a very long laundry list this week. All right, I'm going to go through it. A.J. Brown out. Julio Jones out. Eli.
Can we stop right there? Can we stop right there?
Absolutely.
Sorry. A.J. Brown out. Julio Jones out. Meaning that Tannehill has nobody to throw to, or at least nobody that we're familiar with.
That's right. Yes.
So there's two questions that come about, and maybe as part of your start sit, we answer those. But the questions are: do we grab any of those wide receivers for Tennessee that are starting, and how does that affect Derrick Henry? Does it bring more people in the box, and does it matter? And I don't know if you're going to talk about that later in start sit, but those are two questions that have been asked a few times
You
during
know,
this past week.
yeah, I know, and I didn't really put him in my start sit because
You
there's a
always
couple.
start.
Well, exactly. He's
Yeah.
an always start, even this week, even against the Jets, even with no wide receivers. We'll get to that. Let's go through this list, and then
Go
we'll
ahead.
pull up some questions like that.
Okay, so
Okay,
A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, both out.
out. Elijah, 2020 Mitchell is out. Okay.
Has he ever played?
He did 1 week. He had a great week.
Right.
Gronk out. Russell Gage out. Claypool out. Gerald Everett out. James White not only out but also on the IR. Danny Amendola out. That's not huge, but Scantling in Green Bay out and on the short-term IR. Obviously McCaffrey's still out. Darius Slayton out. Sterling Shepard out. Very interesting there in the Giants. So those are the main ones that I have. Is there anybody that I missed on the outs that you can think of?
No. I'm curious how that affects teams, though. You look at the
Yeah.
Steelers. We know that Deontay Johnson went out last week, right? He's now supposedly okay.
Well, he went out 2 weeks ago and then didn't play last week.
Right. And then we've got Juju, who was hurt all week.
He's okay. Yeah.
He's okay. But without Claypool now, I guess we're putting a little more stock in Juju and in Deontay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me go through the guys that are starting, and then we'll get to some of these questions because there's a lot in there. Obviously, Slayton and Shepard out, which means and Galladay is playing. So people that are that we've been told are starting. You have Jonathan Taylor, supposed to start. Lamar Jackson, who had a back issue, starting. Dalvin Cook, supposed to play. Tyler Lockett, George Kittle with a calf, he's supposed to play. Gordon, right? In Denver.
Gordon?
Josh, no.
You're talking about Melvin Gordon. I didn't know if Josh Gordon was actually playing today.
Josh Gordon, they say, could potentially play next week, week 5.
Okay, but Melvin Gordon is playing.
Melvin Gordon,
so those Javonte Williams owners don't get too excited yet,
right? But ribs and leg, and we know his injury history, so who knows? Gibson is with a shin supposed to play. Keenan Allen is off of the injury list. He's fine. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon both were questionable and both expected to play. Kenny Galladay expected to play with no other receivers there, so we'll see how that goes. Will Fuller, who was injured last week, expected to play. DK Metcalf, Juju, Deontay Johnson, Darrell Henderson, Curtis Samuel making his debut this year, all expected to play. Now, there's one that I have is still questionable, and it's a Monday night, so we won't know, is Josh Jacobs. So how does that affect what you're going to do if you're going to do anything with Peyton Barber? So those are the guys that I have. It's a long list. There's a lot to unfold in the guys starting because, you get these guys starting who are coming off an injury, and some of them, might be rest. Some of them are other things. But Lamar Jackson with a back, he runs a lot. He gets hit. Is that going to affect him during the game? Henderson, all these guys who were it's scary starting people that are coming off an injury, certain injuries, ribs, things like that one hit, can knock them out. Now that could happen to any player, of course.
Right. And for people like we were talking about Derrick Henry before, I've got Dalvin Cook, right? Madison stepped up last week. I had the handcuff, which is the whole point of the handcuff, and he worked out great. The question is this week now for people that have Dalvin Cook, how confident are you in starting him? Now, there's not a place that I can imagine or a time that I can imagine that I will bench Dalvin Cook if he's playing.
Right.
He may not get you the 20 points that you were hoping to get from him every week when you drafted him this week.
Right.
But you can't bench him, right?
No, of course you're not going to bench him. I look at a Derrick Henry this week, right? That's going to be interesting. They're going against the Jets, who have been awful.
Yeah.
And obviously, they don't have anybody to throw to. Is this going to be the kind of game where they're up 21-0 at half, and all of a sudden they're going to start putting McNichols in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
maybe.
But of course, at that point, Henry might already have 180 yards and 3 touchdowns at halftime.
I thought you were going to say 180 carries.
Right.
I actually think that Henry's going to break the NFL rushing carry record. I don't know what that is. If somebody wants to look that up, that would be great.
So you're talking about the carries?
Yeah. What is the most amount of carries that a running
in a game or for a season?
NFL? In a game.
In a game. Didn't he have 39? Was that right? Last week?
I don't remember. It's possible. I don't remember. So let's talk about the Giants real quick. I know it's not a fancy or exciting team, but we're talking about fantasy football here. And we know that Slayton's out. We know that Shepard is out.
Yep.
And so somebody asked me during the week, what about Evan Ingram? Right? Here's a guy that everybody, he was a top 5 tight end going back just like 2 years ago.
Yep.
And he gets hurt. He comes back now. And now he doesn't even register on the tight end list. You would think if there's a week that Evan Ingram is going to shine, it's going to be this week, right? Because Galladay is the only other known receiver in New York. However, Fantasy Pros, for example, has Evan Ingram as the 17th or 19th rated tight end for today. PFF, Pro Football Focus, one of the best sites that you can get on, has him at 25 today. So that's why I think, guessing this game. Now I know they're going against New Orleans, which, by the way, has a really good pass defense, and especially against tight ends. And
yes, but
after 3 games, it's hard to say, okay, they are the tight end killers. I don't know. I'm not saying start Evan Ingram, but I think he's going to do much better than what he's being projected to do today.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a heavy load of Barkley today. I think you're going to see Daniel Jones running the ball. A lot of that.
Yeah.
They'll try to get Galladay involved in that game plan. Ingram has just disappeared.
Oh, looks like we got a call. Kenneth, how are you this morning?
Oh, pretty good. I do have a question regarding a couple of players. I'm in a PPR league, 12 team, and I have questions regarding George Kittle and Deandre Swift.
Okay. As far as what, like which one is started as a flex, or are they both healthy enough to play? What are you asking?
Have you heard anything regarding if they're healthy enough to give it a go today?
So both of them are expected to play. Kittle is expected to play. That's been reported. Whether he goes through warmups and that changes, who knows, right? We can't predict that. And also Deandre Swift not only is expected to play, but this guy's tearing it up if you look at his numbers.
Yeah, he is.
So if you have him, start him and be confident there.
I have Mike Davis and Mike Gesicki available.
No.
Go
with the other ones.
DeAndre Swift is my 11th rated running back today. You go with him for sure. And you start Kittle without a doubt. Every week, unless he's out, you're starting Kittle.
Okay.
All right.
So I heard that both of them were questionable.
Right, but they are both playing.
Okay, I was just wanting to have a plan in place in case they didn't play.
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to check the active list right before the games just to make sure. But everything that we're seeing, there's nothing that indicates that either one of them is not going to play today.
Correct.
All right, so unless something major happens, go ahead and start both Swift and Kittle?
Correct.
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks for the call, Kenneth. So like Kenneth, anybody out there can give us a call, 772-800-2899, or you can place your comment in the comment section of YouTube Live or Facebook Live. I know some of you might be on the way to your respective games that you're going to today. The rest of you are maybe cooking up some good food for the 1 o'clock games. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the start and bench. We're going to go through the positions. And of course, if you have any questions, we will stop right in the middle and we will get right to whatever questions that you have. Now, we're going to start off with quarterback. Like we say every week, we're not going to tell you to start Josh Allen. Why? Because you're starting Josh Allen. That's why. Right. So if you have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, you're starting them. There isn't a doubt. Okay? So don't worry about who they're playing. You are starting those players. So what we're going to talk about today are just a few of the guys that maybe if you have two quarterbacks and you're trying to decide between them which ones to start, that's where we're going to come in and help you out. And the first one is somebody that Brad and I are going to be talking about all season long, and that's Matt Stafford, because the guy is just getting better each week. And, you know, the thing is with Stafford, throughout the summer, I know that the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast, we've been big fans of Stafford, right? We've been pumping him up because we knew he's going to be in such a better situation. He's a great quarterback. And now he's got a real team with him.
And real play callers.
And real play callers. And he's facing the Cardinals this week. So you might say, hey, Commish, I thought that the Cards were really good. I thought that defense was really good. Didn't they play great in weeks 1 and weeks 3? Yes. But they played against Tannehill, who has zero pocket presence. They played against Trevor Lawrence in week 3. But what happened in week 2? They played against Kirk Cousins, who had 30 fantasy points against Arizona. I expect Stafford to not only play well, he's going to play great. I think Stafford is going to have close to 30 points this week in that against Arizona. I think it's going to be a shootout. If you have Matt Stafford and you're trying to decide whether or not you're going to start him, stop trying to decide and just start him. Now, speaking of Kirk Cousins,
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second. I have a question. In one league, what do you do here? You have Tom Brady and Matt Stafford on your roster. Who do you start? Now, obviously, Brady is going, it's his homecoming Sunday night.
Yeah, the consensus is that you go with Brady.
Okay.
Right? That's the consensus. He's the third-rate quarterback coming into the week as far as projections for this week. But I would have a very difficult time sitting Matt Stafford only because of two factors. One, New England's pass defense is formidable, right? Yep. They do have a very good pass defense. They are actually second in the league in passing yards. They've only given up 479 passing yards. Number 2, it's Belichick.
Through 3 games?
What?
Through 3 games. That's amazing.
Through 3 games. And nobody knows Tom Brady better than Bill Belichick.
That is true.
And if anybody is going to be able to stop him, I feel it is Belichick. So I'm not suggesting New England's going to win the game. Don't go out and bet all your money on it. But there's something inside me that is saying that Brady is not going to have the number 3 week that everybody thinks he is. Now, on the other hand, right, Brady's going to look at this possibly as a vengeance game, and he's going to go out and he's going to show New England why they should have kept him. So It's possible that it's just going to be throw, but it's a lot easier said than done. If you have Stafford and you have Brady, I'm starting Stafford. I may be wrong, but that's where I would stand.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a tough decision when you have these two.
Yeah.
Look, especially this week. So, I've in that particular league, I've started Brady every week. He hasn't disappointed.
Yep.
So it's still a toss up. So, all right, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. So the next quarterback, other than the ones that we know you're going to start, somebody who you might have as on your bench that you're thinking about whether or not you should start him is Kirk Cousins. I mentioned it earlier, what he did against that Cardinal defense that everybody thought was going to be incredible, and he tore them up. Cousins has scored he scored 30 points in that Cardinals game, and he's scored at least 26 points in every other game. So in all 3 games, he scored over 26 points each game. And that's going to continue this week. and you're going to, when they play against the Browns, and you're going to say, hey, Commish, didn't the Browns rough up Justin Fields last week and get 9 sacks and hold Chicago to 68 yards? Yes. But they gave up 4 touchdowns to Mahomes. I know it's Mahomes, but they also gave up 3 touchdowns to the combination of Tyrod Taylor and David Mills in week 2.
Right.
Cousins, I expect him to again have at least 25 points today. I don't think you're going to get the Browns defense that you saw last week in Chicago. Kirk Cousins is not Justin Fields. I would start Kirk Cousins. And then my sleeper pick for today. We talked about this on Tuesday. I said that it is now snowing in hell and the pigs are flying because I was recommending you pick up Sam Darnold to stream for this week. And I'm going to continue with that and say, if you need somebody, Sam Darnold might be your guy today. He has scored at least 21 points in every outing he's had this season. Without McCaffrey, you're going to see a lot more passing. And they're playing against the Cowboys, right? So you might say again, hey, Commish, isn't Dallas, tough on opposing quarterbacks because they've picked off, they've had 6 interceptions and they've only given up 7 touchdowns? Yes. But the Cowboys have actually given up the second most amount of passing yards in the NFL this year. They've given up over 1,000 passing yards in the 3 games. So I expect Darnold to actually have a good game today. So my 3 starts, are Matt Stafford, besides the normal ones, right? Are Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and my sleeper, my little gem, is Sam Darnold today. Now, I want to talk about one guy that I'm going to sit. He is a star in the rising, but I'm going to say that you sit him today if you have an alternative. And that is Derek Carr. And people are going to say, come on, he's thrown for over 380 yards each week, right? He's had over 20 fantasy points each week. How could you sit a guy that is in the top 10 quarterbacks in fantasy football? And the reason is the Los Angeles Chargers, right? They picked off Patrick Mahomes twice. They held him to just 260 yards. And yeah, I know Mahomes had 3 touchdowns. So you can say, well, how good are they? If you hold Mahomes to 260 passing yards and you pick him off twice, you're pretty damn good. And what did they do the week before to Dak Prescott, right? The guy with the golden arm? Just 237 yards and was picked off, no passing touchdowns. So, over those 3 games, the Chargers defense has allowed the 8th fewest fantasy points per play in coverage, meaning they can stop you. They might bend a little, but they're not going to break. I think this is the week that Derek Carr goes back to being Carr, and it's a Monday night, by the way, so it should be even more interesting. That's going to be the game of the week. So if you have an alternative, I would start Stafford, Cousins, possibly even Sam Darnold over Derek Carr this week. That's my little gem there for the week. So we're going to jump into running backs, but if you all have any questions or comments, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or a comment in the comment section of Facebook Live or YouTube Live. And we will break in what we're doing and go right to our comments and our questions. And we actually have one from Rudy. Rudy wants to know Renfro or Sutton.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? Because Renfro, I don't exactly know his stats from last week, but I know he had a decent week. But Sutton, Denver is, it's funny in my wide receiver starts. It's like start any Denver running wide receiver this week. You got Sutton and Patrick and Fant, right? And out of these two, I got to go with Sutton.
Oh, you have to go with Sutton, right? Renfro has some upside, especially in a PPR. He's not going to get you the 100 yards, but he's going to be like what Jalen Waddle's been doing, which is like 50 catches for 5 yards. So, he is a target beast. He is a possession.
I think you did that backwards.
No, I did that on purpose. It was a little sarcasm. It was being a little sarcastic because there are people like Cole Beasley and Jalen Waddle and Hunter Renfro who are going to get you a lot of catches, just not a lot of yards.
Right.
And after what I just went through talking about possibly benching Derek Carr,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start Renfro against that Los Angeles Charger defense. And you got to go with Sutton. Without Hamler now, you've got to go with Sutton, with Patrick, with Fant. You're going with what Brad said. You're going with the Denver receivers this week.
And Denver looks good.
Yeah, they do.
They're playing well. They're very balanced, running and throwing. Teddy Bridgewater looks good. Out of these two, go with Sutton this week. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the Baltimore defense isn't the Baltimore defense that we thought they were going to be. They've actually given up the fourth most amount of passing yards this year to opposing quarterbacks, almost 1,000 yards to opposing quarterbacks, meaning that people are throwing against them constantly. They've given up 5 touchdowns and they only have 2 interceptions. So you got to go with Sutton today. I think he's actually going to have a big day. All right. So we appreciate that, Rudy. Thanks for that. Anybody else have any comments or questions about who to start, who to bench? Give us a call or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We're going to jump into our running back start sits. Cyclop is the running back guru. Who are we starting? Who are we benching?
Okay, and we talked about him a little earlier. I'm going to bring him up again because he's just kind of this hidden gem at the moment. And Rudy, we'll get to your question in a second. Let me just throw this first running back out. Deandre Swift. I mean, this guy has finished in basically around running back 5, 2 out of the first 3 weeks. It's not necessarily his rushing yards, right? His rushing, he did get 14 rushing attempts last week, but it's his catching ability and the fact that they are, essentially dumping the ball off. He had 7 targets and 7 catches last week. I think it was for 60 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and a lot of it though was in not garbage time, but they get behind and then they've got to drive down the field with 2 minutes to go. It's going to be Swift and not Williams.
Right. Now this week they're playing Chicago, who has given up 34 points, 17 points, and 26 points to opposing teams. They are going to get scored against. We don't know we'll talk about Chicago a little bit more, but as far as their offense is what's going to happen this week. But I think Detroit's going to win this game. I think Detroit, as much as they don't have big name receivers, Goff is actually doing a good job there.
Yeah, he is.
And it's partly, and these running backs are really getting the ball. So I'm big on Swift this week. I have Swift. I think we have a preseason bet on Swift. So if you have Swift this week, go with him. It's actually part of my question for later that I'll get to that I mentioned earlier in the show. All right. So Rudy asked our thoughts on Antonio Brown worth a start this week.
It depends who else you have, right? The good thing is with Antonio Brown is that he most likely will be matched up with Jaylen Mills in that New England defense, right? He's not going to be the guy that's going to be the blanketed receiver. Obviously, that's going to be Evans and Godwin, meaning that it'll be the third or the slot corner in the nickel that's going to cover him. And then in this case with New England, it's Jaylen Mills, meaning that the matchup itself, if you're looking at it in a vacuum, the matchup is great, right? The problem is he is still the third option in Tampa Bay. Even without Gronk, he would have been the fourth option with Gronk. So, it depends who else you have. I have him ranked around 25 to 30, depending on a PPR, half PPR, which isn't bad, but it's possible you have better options. What do you think, Brett?
It's interesting because without Gronk, right, he moves up a slot.
Yeah.
In that offense, as you just talked about. Antonio Brown, week to week, like week 1, he was option 1. Yeah. Right. And Evans didn't do it. So it's like week to week, you don't know who's going to be option 1 in that offense. He can stretch the field. He can still do that. We've seen that. He didn't play last week. He's starting. He's healthy. We know that Brady is going to want to put pressure on that defense. So is he going to look to Brown downfield? All he needs is that one catch for 60 yards and a touchdown to make it worth a start for him. So, depending on who else you have.
And I want to remind you what I said earlier about that defense.
Yeah.
Right. The New England Patriots defense has only given up 479 yards in the air through 3 games.
That's amazing. But like you said, as much as Belichick knows Brady goes the other way too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So he can look at those defenses and like we've seen him incredibly do this year, he knows what's going on. So, we'll see.
So let us know, Rudy, let us know who else you have, and that would be easier to determine whether or not, you want to start somebody like Antonio Brown. I'm not suggesting, by the way, with anything I've said that you bench it. I think it's just a matter of options. And look who it is. It is 2020 has joined us.
We were victorious.
All right. Mazel tov.
Thank you. Sorry for being in late, guys.
Look, you have jerseys and everything.
Another run otters, baby. We're a fierce river animal.
So just so you know, 2020, his name is based on his lack of vision. So, and then he goes out and pitches in softball. So it's very interesting.
Alive, which means that you're good, that the ball didn't come right at you. Do you wear a mask or anything?
I don't wear a mask, but we do have a protective net, which I'm very thankful for.
A protective mitt?
Net.
Oh, net.
The net, yeah.
Dude, I would love to do that. My God.
Yes. And I got to tell you, with some of the...
It sounds like women's softball.
Or home run derby.
Listen, we are the angry otters, by the way.
All right, so to finish off Rudy's question, your high risk, high reward thing with Brown, in my opinion, I have Thielen and Jefferson, Sutton, and Renfro. I don't know if you're starting 2 or 3.
You have
but
Thielen and
2,
Jefferson.
You're going with Thielen, and you're going with
Jefferson
the question
and Sutton.
To me would be Thielen and Sutton. I would go with Jefferson and Sutton. If you're starting 3, you go with Thielen, Jefferson, and Sutton. Again, I think all of those will have a better week than Antonio Brown, who, by the way, could have. You're right. It is high risk, high reward. But if you've got Jefferson and you've got Thielen and you've got Sutton, I wouldn't play around. I would go ahead and start them.
Yeah, I agree. It feels funny to start 2 guys on the same team, but the way Cousins is throwing the ball around, I absolutely
especially this week. Cousins is going to light it up this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
5th-rated quarterback. I agree.
Rudy, we appreciate the call. Just to catch 2020 up, we've gone through our quarterbacks. We've gone through our and we're in the middle of our running backs right now. Cyclop, who was the first running back was Deandre Swift.
All right. So the next running back I'm going to go to is David Montgomery. And I know this might sound, well, they only had 68 yards in offense last week, and they just look absolutely horrendous. But here's the thing. Well, we already know that Fields has been named the starter for today. We don't know if that's good or bad, but here's the difference. Apparently, and this is from reports, Bill Lazor is going to be calling the offensive plays again in Chicago. Okay. He hasn't. He has not been through the first 3 weeks for some unknown reason. Personally, I think they need to get rid of Nagy. This guy is just I think I could do a better job than him. Okay. And I've never coached a day of football in my life except like 4-on-4 flag football or 7-on-7.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. So here's, when Lazor was calling the plays at the end of last year, Montgomery was going ballistic. I mean, he was leading the league in running back.
They did have very
total
nice
offense at that point.
They had very nice matchups at the end of the year. But
yeah, and they get Detroit this week. We know Detroit does not have a very good defense. So he's going to be if you have him, I'm sure you're worried, but this week I think you start him, and with the different play calling, if they allow that, go with Montgomery.
Okay.
All right. So
that'll be interesting to watch.
Yep. We do have another quick question here. You want to put it up? I'll put it up. Somebody can put it up. You got one. Start one. Corey Davis, Antonio Brown,
Kirk
or Pittman.
First of all, I apologize
Yeah, right.
That's what you have.
Well, I would
choose
imagine
from.
this is like your third receiver or
eighth. I will tell you. Oh my God, this is not good. Look, I think all of those guys are going to probably score within 5 points of each other. I don't think, so when you have a case like that, you look at upside. And we were talking about Antonio Brown before. I think if we're going to look at upside, I think Brown has the highest upside out of all of them. I think Corey Davis is probably the safer pick out of all of them, but I would especially now that Mims is back, Crowder is back. It's not going to be the Corey Davis show necessarily.
What's the word on DeAndre though? Because DeAndre's banged up. He was out there last week, but it was almost like a D.
He's expected to play.
But I'm hearing he's not 100%. I think Kirk might be the best floor here.
It's funny you said Davis and Brown. I'm looking at Kirk or Pittman.
Yeah.
Pittman against as much as we're Dolphin fans against the Dolphins, there's holes in that defense, and receivers are kind of having a field day against us.
I don't know. Okay, I mean, I'm not putting up $1 because this is one of those where we're not really sure. So I'm going with Antonio Brown. Brad, you're going with Christian Kirk.
I'm going to go with Kirk.
I'm going with Kirk as well. Yeah.
All right, so there's your consensus with Kirk, and when you lose, please don't blame us or blame me because I'm telling you to start Antonio Brown.
Right.
So hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully your game doesn't come down to one of those four guys.
But you know what this shows? It shows what we've been talking about all along. I mean, listen, we do a lot of research. We don't just watch Good Morning Football. We look at stats. We look at a lot of things, splits, how people play on the road. The best of the best analysts, and I'm not saying we're the best of the best. You just don't know. You have to take all the data and all the information that you can. That's just fantasy football. I mean, and that's honestly, it's what makes it fun and exciting. It's like golf. One day you'll go out and have a great game, and the next day you can't get the ball off the ground. That's fantasy football.
Yeah, and to me, if we don't know for sure, but like I said earlier when we were talking about Antonio Brown, if Jaylen Mills is going to be the guy covering Antonio Brown, he's got the potential of having a big game. However, if they put J.C. Jackson on him, then he won't. And the same thing, by the way, with Pittman, right? If Xavier Howard is going to shadow him, it might be a little more difficult for Pittman to do well this week. But I don't know. It's a toss-up. But now you heard the consensus. I'm sorry that they told you Christian Kirk, but
he's apologizing on our behalf.
That's who they're going with. Oh, it was Robbie. All right, so he'll probably listen to you, Brad.
Probably not.
All right, so DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. Who else is starting?
So this is an obvious start, but I just wanted to talk about him. But just Najee Harris. I know it's an obvious start.
Is it though?
The guy plays every single down. But here's what's interesting, and why I wanted to bring it up. Right, he had 14 rushes last week for 40 yards. But he also had 14 catches for 102 yards. I mean, that is unbelievable. Now, they're also missing Claypool this week, right? Which gives the running back additional opportunities, right? So he might not have 14, but he might get up in that 7-8 range. So I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity this week. They're going to keep giving him the ball on the ground, so it's going to continue there. I just like him.
Did you guys cover all the latest news? What did they said about Josh Jacobs? He is going to be active, right?
He's still questionable. Yeah, there has not been, because it's Monday night, they're not really revealing it.
And it's a shame. If you have Jacobs and you have Barber as your backup, I mean, I just think Barber is another sneaky play. Gruden loves him. Absolutely loves Barber. And I really believe it's his backfield with Jacobs out. So,
all right,
but it's Monday night.
Can we just talk about the obvious issue, which is whenever 2020 likes a player, he's the best player in the NFL, and you're going to spend all your money to get him, and then he wriggles out, and we never hear anything else about it.
Let me give you my last 2 weeks with 2020 with making decisions. Okay, we do split a team. Okay,
you're going to go here? Seriously?
Oh, I'm going to go here. So last week, in our league that we split, which has been like 20-something years, last minute he calls me. He's like, I'm putting in, I don't even know who it was.
Tyson Williams over Allen Robinson because Justin Fields was.
Okay, so Allen Robinson gets like 3.7 points, and Williams gets like 2.2 points. Well, we lose that game by
By
0.2.
0.2 is right.
0.2. It was 118 to
But
117.8. So this week, wait. So this
Hold on,
week,
let's
yeah, I'm going
Go
there.
ahead, Brad.
This week, he calls me last minute. He goes, "Oh, let's put in Marvin Jones Thursday night instead of Trey Sermon, I think, I believe." And Marvin Jones sucked. So I called him Friday morning. I said, "You are complete. I'm not even letting you make changes on our roster anymore. I'm taking him off as a part. I have to block his ability to make changes now for the rest of the season."
I'm literally making my list at the beginning of the week and then going against my own choices. And now I know what to do. But I mean, first of all, we were right. A-Rob did nothing. And I knew that was going to be the case. Who knew that Tyson Williams was going to put up a total goose egg as well. But yeah, appreciate the story. Thanks.
What do you think? What do you think Barber is going to do this week? Because I got I got to find my dollar. Okay, I'm ready.
So it all depends. Once again, if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, I think Barber has. If he doesn't play, yeah, I like Barber to get from scrimmage 100 yards with a touchdown.
Please pull out your dollar because that is insane.
Are you?
I know for whatever reason you have a hard on for Peyton Barber right now.
Well, because
Mitchell's hurt.
And you know something? Hold on a second. And when Mitchell comes back, watch what he does. So you guys are talking about shit. We haven't gotten to see what happened after that first week when he kicked butt. And I know Barber played against a very porous run defense on the Miami Dolphins, but I've watched Barber play in Washington. This guy is a baller. I'm not saying he's the best.
He's a baller? He's like the third choice on every team. Baller.
But when he gets the rock,
the starting lineup, baller.
When he gets the rock.
Did you pick up Barber in our league?
I have Barber. I picked up Barber in 2 leagues, and guess what?
There you go.
And he put up 25
when you were a kid,
points.
did you want to be a barber? I don't understand the fascination.
You tell me.
Well, that explains a lot.
It's not a fascination. I'm just saying, if you're a Jacobs owner and you picked up Barber, he's a sneaky play Monday night. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I'm not going out
actually, it's a good point you're bringing up. In all seriousness, if someone has Josh Jacobs and you don't have Barber, right? I don't feel confident starting him this week, and you have to make a decision before Monday night. If you don't have somebody on the Chargers or you don't have somebody on the Raiders, you've got to start somebody else in Jacobs. You can't rely on the fact that Jacobs may or may not start at this point. So if you have a backup to Jacobs and it's not Barber, then I recommend you start them.
And I just want to say one thing. The reason why I like these guys, and Eli Mitchell and Peyton Barber, is for me, what I like with receivers is when they get targets. I mean, this is not rocket science. What I like with running backs is when they're getting all the rushes. And what was very clear is when it was Jacobs was out and it was Barber and Drake's backfield, he got 25 touches against the Dolphins. He was the guy, and he even had 6 targets. So the reason why I like guys like this is he's got that backfield locked down. You want opportunities, and these guys are getting the opportunities. That's why I like them. They're getting the rock. So to me, that's a good thing. That's what you want.
Did you write it down, Brad?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown.
Okay. Let me go to my kind of sleeper running back. All right. This is Corduroy Patterson. Okay, in Atlanta, has been getting more and more touches. Now, he's not necessarily doing it on the ground, but Mike Davis is essentially proven that he is not the guy. All right, Patterson had 7 carry. He's gotten 7 attempts each week. Now, he's not
That's
first
crazy.
weekend. Yeah, but this is the crazier part is he's getting the past 2 weeks, he's gotten 7 targets. And last week, he had 6 catches for 82 yards. The week before, he had 5 catches for 58 yards. So all of a sudden, you take that and you throw a touchdown in there, right? You have a valuable running back. Now, we know Russell Gage is out this week, and Atlanta just seems awful. Like, you can't watch a game. They're awful to
offense
watch.
and defense.
Yeah, with the offensive line, you're right, Cyclop. They can't push the ball downfield. They have to be dropping off to guys like Corduroy. Yeah.
Right. So, if you need a running back, pick this guy up. He's getting, and there's reports that they want to involve him more because he's moving, when he's getting his opportunity, he's capitalizing on it.
So if you have Mike Davis and Patterson, who are you starting between those two?
Patterson.
Today? Okay.
Wow.
That's big.
Yeah.
And that's your question. Just to have fun. If Jacobs doesn't play and Barber is in fact the guy, would you like Patterson over Barber?
No.
Okay. PPR, yes.
Yes. Yes. Even a half PPR, maybe.
I'm writing that down, Commish.
Good luck.
That's my dollar bet with you.
Okay.
I'm undefeated, so just remember that.
Contingencies here. If he doesn't play,
Mitchell hasn't played. Hasn't happened yet.
Oh boy! All right,
here we go with Mitchell. Oh,
listen.
When I said Mitchell was out earlier, you missed it because you were playing with your ball.
I think Patterson. Is a good option. I have a sleeper gem also on the running back side, which is Zach Moss. I really think he's getting better and better each week. People were afraid of that Buffalo backfield. I think they've decided now that Moss is going to be their guy and their go-to guy. If he's available, I would grab him because I think by season's end he's going to be the clear number one in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's been for a few years now where people are scared to pick up any Buffalo running back.
Yeah,
but he is certainly starting to shine there. A lot more than Singletary. I would agree with that. Kind of pick him up and stash him. I wouldn't pick him up and start him unless it's a bye week. You need somebody. That's when you can start him and move there. Now,
it's really interesting. It's the whole AFC East, when you think about it, has muddled backfields. There's been Gaskin is a great running back. It's just what game script has been and with what's been going on, he's not a terrific start. But if you look at the whole AFC East, it's like that. Because let me ask you a question. Is there a running back in New England that you feel comfortable starting right now?
No.
Right. So it's nice. I agree with you, Commish. Moss has finally separated himself. That was one of those backfields between the two, him and Singletary. So it's interesting. I think you might have one running back that's startable out of the whole AFC East now.
So I'll give you a couple quick sits or not necessarily sits, but worries in running back. My first one, Mike Davis, for the same reasons we just talked about. Patterson is getting more. What's that? Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was, but we have breaking news about
about
an injury. It's the opposite of an injury. It's actually Antonio Gibson, who was listed as questionable, has now been upgraded to healthy. So he is a healthy start. Don't worry for your Gibson fantasy football teams. He will be playing today. Sorry, go ahead.
Excellent. No. So again, Mike Davis for the reasons we talked about, and then Jonathan Taylor. Okay. I know this is potentially like one of those get right weeks, right? The Dolphins defense has not been good against the run. But they just, is Wentz playing? Wentz, I think, is still questionable. Have they even said that he's starting
Wentz,
today?
He's not inactive. We know that he is active today. Most likely that means he will play.
Okay. But even when active, he hasn't been very good. And their offensive line, they lost another offensive lineman this week. They were already bad. And Jonathan Taylor and Hines has just been picking up more and more.
And Hines is getting goal line carries, which is weird. It's crazy what's going on there.
So obviously Taylor was an early round pick in most leagues. He was generally in the top 10, 12 picks. And he's been disappointing. And everyone's kind of, it's like, oh, wait a couple weeks, but now we're in the fourth week. So you got to start looking at potentially putting him on the bench and seeing if there's somebody else that you can put in.
I hate to say this as a homer, but I do think this is his get right week. He's upgraded. He was questionable. He's healthy. With what's going on at quarterback, I think that they're going to lean on him. Hines is going to get his, but that Dolphins front seven has a really hard time with Raekwon Davis going out stopping the run. So yeah, and they lost their starting center, so they're going to have even more problems on offense, giving more opportunities to Indy's offense. I think this is a get right week for Taylor.
All right, so excuse me, more of the active and inactive lists have come out. Everything that we told you at the beginning of the show, which Brad, in a second, if you could just run through quickly those in a second, the ones who are out, that is holding true. There are no other surprises that we haven't expected. We talked about the Jets. We told you that we know that Elijah Moore is inactive, but we found out that Crowder and Mims are both active. That's going to possibly come into play for people who have Corey Davis, and they're not sure what to do with that. But everything else is more or less what we expected. For you Dolphin fans out there, Noah Benigny, again, is inactive, along with Hunter Long and Preston Williams today. So that's not really fantasy worthy, but I know that we have a lot of Dolphin fans who are listening.
Benigny is a healthy inactive? Wow.
He is inactive again. He was active last week. He was inactive the week before. So, I don't want to get into that because you're just going to make me upset. So, Brad, if you could, we don't have to go into deep analysis, but just tell us on the wide receiver front, who are some of the guys to start on that front?
Okay. Here, talking about the Dolphins. How about Jaylen Waddle? Yeah. Right? He's been a guy that you picked up middle of your draft somewhere, thinking, okay, maybe he'll be good. He had 12 catches last week.
Yeah.
Brissett seems to like him. Brissett is able to get the ball out. Now, one of them, unfortunately, was a safety last week because of a bad pass and a mistake. Probably a play call as well.
One of the worst play calls in NFL history.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But Jaylen Waddle, DJ Moore, as you talked about before with Sam Darnold, he's really good, right? DJ Moore was another guy who kind of slipped this year because people were worried about Sam Darnold coming in there. Well, he's been solid. And we talked about Sutton or Patrick in Denver. You can start either one of these guys. I like both of them. Brandon Cooks, deeper down, but he is their offense. It's like the offense runs through Brandon Cooks in Houston. So if you have him, he is the number one choice there, so you can start him. Again, I like Deontay Johnson this week, right? They're going against Green Bay. They're going to have to throw. They lose Claypool, which gives Johnson and Juju potential and uptick in reception or looks, right, in targets.
Let me just say this as somebody who had Deontay Johnson last year and had to deal with the triumvirate of receivers in Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson is he's fragile. And my concern is he's coming off of an injury that it's not going to take much to get him hurt again. I'm not saying bench him. If you have Deontay Johnson, you got to start him. I think that Juju is going to have the better week between the two of them. But I'm concerned about, I want to see Deontay play a full game without getting hurt.
Okay. So this leads me into my question. I told you early, first thing when we got on the show, I did have a question today. And my question is, out of these three, I need to start one. Okay. Godwin, Hopkins, or Deontay Johnson. Who do you start?
I think it's between Godwin and Hopkins at this point. But you're only picking one.
I have to pick one of these three, right? Because I decided to start Chase this week. So he's already played. And he didn't have a bad week, but he didn't score a touchdown this week like he had in the other weeks. But he still had a good game. So I have to pick one of these three because I have a flex in this league, but I also have DeAndre Swift in my flex.
I mean, problem is Hopkins is a little banged up, and you've got a very, very motivated Tom Brady wanted to come in and show Dad what he can do. And Godwin has been his guy. And with Gronk out, there's just one less mouth to feed. Generally, I wouldn't. But there's a lot of mouths to feed in Arizona right now. So I would actually probably pick Godwin here over Hopkins until Hopkins shows that injury is not nagging him.
Okay.
Boy, the history, Hopkins hasn't been doing great.
Right.
But at the same time, that New England defensive backfield, we talked about that with Antonio Brown, is insane, is insanely good. And maybe it's who they played, whereas the LA Chargers, their defense has also been insane. And quite frankly, I think that the matchup that DeAndre Hopkins has against Jalen Ramsey, which most likely will be the matchup today, and I hope it is, because I love watching the two of them go at it, makes me think that it needs to be Godwin this week.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
So basically, I should go with Deontay Johnson, is what you're saying.
When can we start trusting Robert Woods again? What has happened? It has been the Cooper Kupp show. He's the number one fantasy wideout in football, because there's a lot of balls to go around, but they seem to all be finding Cooper Kupp. I actually have Robert Woods on my bench this week for Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
what's going on? When is he going to be trustworthy?
The Robert Woods phenomenon was built up in the press and in the minds of fantasy football experts. And it was more of a product of that offense. And I bought into it too. And if I had an opportunity to draft Woods, I was going to. The issue is the reality of what they're doing. Woods isn't their main target, and he's not the main bailout receiver. And the whole offense isn't based around Woods being the Stafford's Megatron. So the point is, we all had expectations. The Rams might not have had those expectations. It's the fantasy football players and the media. They've had the expectation that Woods was going to step in and be this alpha type wide receiver number one. And the fact that he isn't, people are like, oh my God, what's going on? Nothing's going on. He's Robert Woods, right? This is not DeAndre Hopkins having 3 bad weeks. This is Robert Woods. This is who he is. So quite frankly, I don't think anything's going on. I think what we've seen over the past 4 weeks is what we're going to continue to see.
So you think this is it? This is not exception. This is the rule. This is the way this offense is.
And the exception will be that he will have some very good weeks, right? To me, that's going to be the exception. But the rule is he's going to be a wide receiver 2, borderline 3 moving forward, where everyone expected him to be a wide receiver 1.
He hasn't even been a wide receiver 2. That's what's so upsetting. And he was drafted as a very, very high-end wide receiver 2, which has been upsetting. The one thing is, and if you're a Woods owner, and I would never, ever wish an injury on anyone, I'm saying the one thing is, if you are a Woods owner, don't panic, because every year Cooper Kupp does seem to get that injury bug. And when that happens, if and when that happens, that's when Woods will have his opportunity. But other than that, right now, I think the pattern, you're right, Commish, we're seeing is Kupp just looks better too. I'm watching the routes he's running there. It's incredible. He really does look fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
okay, go ahead.
We're coming up on the noon hour. We're going to sign off. But before we do, Brad, do you want to run through those who is out this week?
So what I have is out, which, like you said, hasn't changed, is A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Elijah 2020 Mitchell, Gronkowski out, Russell Gage out, Claypool, Gerald Everett, James White not only out but on the IR, Amendola out, Scantling, McCaffrey, Darius Slayton, and Sterling Shepard, which gives a bump to Kenny Galladay
and Barkley.
Yes. So those are what I have is out. I think there was one more that you had mentioned that I had missed, but I don't remember. You had mentioned
Elijah Moore, but
Elijah Moore, right, but nobody cares.
Right.
So that's fine.
So here's a question: is there a wide receiver worth starting in Tennessee?
No.
If you have to start somebody, then there are people, but I'm not.
Chester Rogers, no. And one last question: is Darrell Henderson worth starting, coming back off the injury?
I think so. I think he's active, and I think he's going to be a big part of that offense. Yes.
Yeah, I think Henderson active is a start. Yeah,
I mean, Michelle has he's laid his stake into a piece of that backfield now, but I think I agree with you as well. Henderson should be fine.
There's the bell, guys. We got to run. But,
go Dolphins!
Go Dolphins.
All right,
Hope everyone
we
has a
have
great
1 hour.
football Sunday.
Yeah, we have 1 hour till kickoff. It's the longest hour of the week.
Yes, it is.
really is.
I'm going to go to Las Patas, get some subs, and then watch the game.
Nice.
So, guys,
Ooh.
I hope you have a great week. Any
Do you have
final words?
Do you have a Las Patas close to your house, or do you have to go to Davie?
I have to go to Davie.
Nice.
They closed the one near my house
Oh, got you.
during the pandemic.
Oh, got you. Man,
Fair
now I want a Las Patas. Jeez.
For those
why do we
people
gotta
that
do
are not in Florida, it's quite possibly the best sub joint in the country. It is that good.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
enjoy, guys. Enjoy your day. I'm gonna go switch.
guys.
I'm gonna go switch my Deontay Johnson player.
And we will see you Tuesday night.
You got it.